Welcome to our special Shoptalk edition of the Omni Talk Spotlight series, the series that spotlights the companies, the people, and the technologies that are shaping the future of retail. Or said another way, the series that brings you tomorrow's companies today. I'm your host, Chris Walton.
And I'm Mezzenga.
And we are the founders of Omni Talk. Today's podcast is brought to you with the partnership and support of our Shoptalk sponsor, Meta.
Yes.
Discovery commerce matches products to people. Not just any people, the people most likely to love your product. When you turn on discovery commerce, you turn discovery into demand. Is your business ready? Find out how at meta.com/discovery commerce. All right, folks, we got a good one for you today. If the shoe fits,
yes,
and I say that intentionally, Anne, wear it, because here to speak on that subject specifically is Volumental's Chief Marketing Officer, Brent Hollowell. Brent, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, Anne.
Hi. He's been saving that, Brent, for so long, and now I can't explain how much gratification you've just given to Chris.
I mean, I was stunned, but I wanted to know if I could actually license that from you somehow. Like, is that trademarked?
I don't know. I think it's pretty much in common parlance now, that expression. So
great.
Yeah, but thank you, Ed, for signaling that out. I'm very proud of that that intro.
I'm sure you are.
If the shoe
sure
fits,
you
wear
are.
it. But
I want to use it.
You're going to use it? All right. Well, you get my license to use it, Brent. Absolutely.
Thank you.
But you're calling from Sweden today, right? We're talking to you from Sweden, right?
I am. Yes. I'm actually in about 120-year-old building in Sweden. It's been kind of my temporary home here for the last couple of months. I'm in the process of moving from the US and bringing my wife over. Yeah.
So, wow.
That's why the stark white background. Our offices are under construction. I don't have a beautiful workspace like you behind you. To promote.
Not yet, right? Yeah, right. Wow, that's cool. So that's interesting. So you guys are making the move. Long career in retail and in this space. So I'm curious to hear what's captivated you in terms of why you're going down this direction.
Brent, I'm guessing it was not this Sweden being like the pop music capital of the world that brought you over there. Why don't we start off with your background? We know you did a stint at Fleet Feet. I assume that you're also quite the avid runner from the little we've discussed so far, but what kind of played a role in your coming on at Volumental?
Sure. Well, I mean, a little bit about my background. So I really started my career in retail. I started my career with Foot Locker, actually in the store. So I've actually been the floor tying people's shoes for them and, all of that. So I know feet and shoes and fit from the earliest days. And this is way, way back. I mean, I'm pretty old. I don't even buy green bananas anymore, in case you're wondering. But I worked on the floor at Foot Locker. I worked my way into a merchandising role there, and ultimately headed up marketing and then global marketing for Foot Locker, which led me to Adidas a few years later. And I headed up US marketing and retail at Adidas. And in both of those places was kind of instrumental and helpful in bringing on the like at Foot Locker. When I worked there, we weren't sure selling shoes online was even a good idea. So I was very early days of the internet when I was heading up marketing there. And so we bought that on board. And then at Adidas, I was involved in selling direct to consumers through Adidas.com when that wasn't a thing. And so I've been on.
What year was this, Brent? Just so we get an idea. Give the audience an idea. What
early
year
90s and mid 90s. Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay. So very early days of e-commerce. You were involved.
Exactly.
In That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I was pretty young in those roles. I mean, I was probably one of the younger VP level people at Foot Locker at that time. But so I joke about being old, but that was actually 30 plus years ago now.
Right.
In these roles. So having worked on both the retail and the brand side, I'm very familiar with some of the not only the technologies that have been onboarded or the evolution of the technology in this space, but also the promise of technology and some of the, I'll call them like less than stellar promises in terms of them being kept, right? And so
right.
So I was actually having been at Foot Locker and Adidas and other companies in between, I ultimately ended up at Fleet Feet, who was a customer of Volumental's. And much smarter people than me actually at Fleet Feet chose Volumental. I was just coming on. It was actually chosen before I came on. So I came on at about the time we were starting to onboard the technology. And I got to be honest, I was quite skeptical. I was thinking about the old Dr. Scholl's scanners in the stores,
right?
In the drugstores,
That's a good analogy.
Haven't we already proven that scanning feet in stores doesn't work, guys? I mean, what are we doing here? So luckily, these very smart people started working with these very smart engineering and programming people at Volumental, computer scientists, computer vision people, AI, and all of that. And so when I started working with it, I started to realize that, all the things that you do as a retailer, when you put your head on the pillow at night, like the things that you think about are the things that we've been talking about for decades in retail, like customer acquisition, retention, lifetime customer value, and then more recently, omni-channel experiences. I mean, what does that even mean, 10 years ago? And now, and that COVID comes along and we understand really what that actually does mean. Deep personalization. And, 5 years ago, it was like, hi, Chris. Hi, Ann. Now,
in the email.
Now message. That was personalization. And so now
that was personalization. That's so
fun.
So now it's like, we can say, I have your shoe scan. Here's the shoes that are going to fit you. And here's what size you would order in those shoes. And you can, as a retailer, you can do this. So it starts with the scanning, sort of the mining equipment in the store of gathering the data of the foot. And what we do at Volumental is we take the scan, and then we see, what did that foot purchase? Like, what did it prefer? Which size did it purchase? Which style did it purchase? So we're actually not, a lot of people think we scan shoes, like we scan the inner dimensions of shoes, and then we see, and we scan the feet, and we say, oh, this puzzle piece should fit that puzzle piece, and that's a fit. But we all know that fit is not a size, right? It's a feeling.
Right.
And you have your own preferences around fit. You might like them snug, someone else might like them loose, or Goldilocks might like them just right, right? So everybody has a different preference. So this idea of fit being a feeling is really integral to how our product works. So we see which feet and which dimensions by which shoes, and then we use AI and we crunch all these numbers, and we get this big data pool, and we can see, if you come to any store that's one of our customers, you can scan in like you stay on the scanner, and 5 seconds later, you've got about 12 different foot dimensions, the full volume of the foot, arch height and all these different dimensions. And then at the same time, you can click on and see which of the shoes that are in the actual back room of that store that you're in are going to fit you, or the clerk can see that.
The clerk can see that. Okay.
The clerk can see that. So, and they can show it to the customer or not. I mean, that kind of gets you down a deep rabbit hole very quickly if you don't actually have it in the back room for some reason,
right,
or doesn't fit. But they tend to use that tool for themselves to go and pull the right shoes. So you can actually activate a new employee in a day by teaching them how to scan and teaching them how to look at the iPad and navigate, because they don't need, like in a running store where I worked, you would need weeks or even months or hundreds of fits to know these feet fit in these kinds of shoes. Now, with the AI telling you, I mean, you can put a person, in a productive position very, very quickly on a retail sales floor. And that's super powerful.
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because I mean, I've been looking into specifically fit technology for the last, few months, and we're seeing this in a few different use cases. We talk about returns being a big element of that. And especially in the case of footwear, I mean, it takes a little while walking around in those shoes. And if you don't have something that's getting to that right fit right away, you start to try on 2-3 pairs of shoes that, the retailer at that point can't do anything with it. Those have been worn for, the 30-day trial and things like that. That's really interesting. I didn't think about that. Specifically.
I mean, just in stores, we've seen, that's a great point, Ann. I mean, just in stores, we've seen reductions immediately of around 10% of return reductions around 10%. So if your returns in store were around 10%, it might go down to like 8% or so.
Okay.
Or more even. And then online, the power of what you can unlock online is even bigger, because online, we all know, well, I get free shipping to me and I get free shipping back. Well, let's order 3 of the same thing and try them on at home. And that's a margin killer, right? So by knowing your size, by you shopping in our store, and then we have your scan, and then you come onto our website, you can use that same scan on the website. And then ultimately, I mean, where we see this thing going is ultimately you won't even, I mean, back up a second, size labels themselves are wildly unreliable, right? Like even from the same brands, even the same style of the same brand, the next version of XYZ running shoe, let's say, or whatever style, because of manufacturing differences or whatever might happen, very rarely are exactly fitting the same. So because of the unreliability of the label, this idea of like being able to show someone in this style, in this size is what's going to fit you. And that online, that's going to really give you much more confidence to not have to buy 3 pairs, to buy 1 pair. And as I was going to say, where we see this going is ultimately, you shouldn't even have to even click your size or hover your finger over which size or look at this crazy Excel sheet size chart, which is never correct, right?
Right.
And go, oh, I think I'm going to pick this one and hope that it works. So it definitely reduces returns in store. It's going to reduce it even more online. And I think that's super exciting, to the point where, whether it be shoes or apparel or other things in the future, you shouldn't even have to choose your size. It's going to, I want this shoe, and it'll just put it in size U in your cart.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that's one of the most exciting parts of this is online shopping, especially. We've solved payments. Like, I was there when payments were a problem, and we've now solved that. In fact, there's more payment solutions, more ways to pay for things online than you could possibly use in a lifetime, I think. Shipping was a problem. Like, how do we pick and pack and get it there? That was a problem. That's solved. So I think one of the last big frontiers that retailers really need to address is this world of fit, because, fit is central. Like, a lot of us don't think a lot about fit, but, millions of times everywhere in the world, probably every day, somebody is saying, oh, I love these shoes, or I love these pants, or I love this jacket. Right. So it's about the aesthetic, but it's also about how it makes them feel. And that feeling comes from the way it fits in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. A couple of big epiphanies there, honestly. I love the analogy, first of all, with the payments and shipping, how that's become much more easily understood online. And the fit is probably that next frontier of lack of understanding that needs to be tackled. Which
is a little shocking, to be honest. It feels like that should be the priority. Like, why don't we get this fit the right first time, and then move into...
Yeah, although when I think about it, not to get off on a tangent, but like, not all products have fit, right? So e-commerce still develops around the whole universe, which I think we're seeing here now. And then the other part that I think is really interesting about what you said, that I want to come back to a little bit and double click into a little bit more, Brent, is it sounds like it's not about assuming that this whole setup is going to find you the perfect fit. It's about finding you the options that are going to most likely make you you use the word feel a lot, like you have the right fit, like what's right for you. So take us back then. Where does the product offering of Volumental begin and end? Like, so you mentioned you come in the store, you get scanned, right? That's a piece of hardware that people are putting their foot into, right? And then I'm curious, where does it begin and end? Like, is that all there is, or is there mobile scanning too? Like, how's it all work?
So, I mean, to take you back a little bit. So the founders of the company were, computer vision scientists, AI people. They met at a university here. It's kind of like the MIT of Sweden, called KTH. And so they were scanning everything. They were just doing stuff and thinking scanning's great. And they were building all kinds of tools and products. So it was really around 2012, 2013 when they got together. It wasn't until about 2016 that they realized that, every time you give someone a scanner, where they turn it is to themselves. They scan their body, and their feet was kind of became where the product market fit in around 2016. So Volumental kind of started there with this idea that if you scan feet, you can help people find better fitting shoes. And so that product, initially, it was not much more than a digital branding device. And so
digital branding device. I was going to ask you about the branding device, because that's what this feels like. It feels like it's a substitution for that. What is the branding device for everyone?
The branding device is that hunk of metal with the stripes on it that you stand on when you go to a shoe store. It's what I used when I was in store.
Made in Syracuse, New York in 1921 or something. I actually looked at it this week while I was waiting at Dick's Sporting Goods. I was like, I wonder what the Brannick family is doing these days. And sure enough, it gives you the history on there. But
great. I mean, like the history of shoe, like, I remember being a kid and going to a shoe store that, believe it or not, had a thing called a fluoroscope, which was like radiation that it x-rayed your foot. Like, you put your foot in this thing and you look down in the shoe store. So the clerk would say, yeah, there's your bones of your feet and your shoes. Like, look it up. I'm not kidding. There's been all kinds of crazy contraptions. It turned out that it was causing cancer in people that were near it a lot. So they got rid of them finally. But I mean, that was a real thing. Like, measuring feet has been this thing that's been going on for a long time, or helping people feel confidence in their fit has been going on for a long time.
That's a requirement when you think about it. I mean, something you have to do to buy a pair of shoes, right? Especially if you're growing.
So I say digital brand device tongue in cheek, but it really does, you're getting the name Volumental is the volume, comes from the idea of like bringing the full volume of the foot, in all of its dimensions, because the foot is a multi-dimensional thing. It's not just length and width. That said, when you are standing on a brand device and you tell someone, you might benefit from a wide shoe. I don't know if you all have ever worked in a shoe store, but a lot of people, when you tell them they might benefit from a wide shoe, they go, my feet aren't wide.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? How dare you? But in reality, if you're sitting there and with an iPad and a 3D foot on the screen, and you say, well, we've scanned millions of feet, and your foot shows up as being wider than 85% of the population. Now you're in a different conversation. You're like a doctor with an MRI in front of them. Like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, your ACL is actually torn, and you can see it here, right? So now, but it doesn't make the shoe clerk less important. It just makes them have more information that they can share. And so we have customers who their width business has jumped by just using it as a digital brand device. The width business jumped by 12%. And 20% in women's shoes. So now, retailers are having conversations with their suppliers. Instead of that 7th color of that 6th best-selling shoe, why don't we take your best-selling shoe and add a width to that, or your first and second best-selling shoes? So SKU rationalization and optimization can come from this kind of data. So I guess I'm getting around to answering your question here. Is like, so we started with the scanners, started using it as a digital brand device. And then as we were working at Fleet Feet and other customers were working, we were realizing we were unlocking all this other stuff. So the next thing that got introduced was the fit engine. So rather than just saying, okay, this is your size and we can recommend a shoe, and we're getting all this data now, so we can actually very accurately say, these shoes are going to fit your feet the best, because we can tell that feet just like yours have bought these shoes. So we're able to give more accurate, starting to ladder up now in terms of the services that can come out of this into not just size recommendations, but actual style recommendations based on the entire catalog. And then we started saying, okay, well, wouldn't it be cool, instead of showing them the entire catalog, if we just showed it, we tied into the POS of that store or that website, and just showed people, kind of pushed everything forward in the store that is their best fitting stuff. And it's actually right here in the back room. Because if you're a retailer, it's like SWAT, sell what's available today. You don't want to walk that customer. So like, let's show them first. And a lot of times when you have clerks of varying sort of tenure in the store, they tend to either gravitate towards the same shoes all the time. Let's pull this shoe for this customer, especially in performance footwear, like running and other things. Or a person who's new just comes in and just watches the others and pulls what they do. And so this opens up your entire back room. It's AI saying, look, you got a bunch of shoes back there that are going to fit this person. Why don't you try this one, and this one? And so it's sort of leveling out, sort of in some ways the things that people even get to experience in the store. So we see this massive hike in customer experience, like just, the feedback people get about the overall store experience, because you're going from, standing on a hunk of metal that's 2-dimensional and not really that informative to, a digital experience. And then what we've realized over time is we've added now mobile scanning, because we now, with the VR and AR kit that's in every iPhone, we can scan feet. And so you can onboard people into the ecosystem, not even from the store, but from home or wherever. So now we have 2 ways to onboard scans in our product set. And then we have in our product, not only the recommendations engine or the fit engine, but we now have an ocean of data, right? And so back to my point about deep personalization and sort of this idea of omni-channel experience, you actually have something tangible where you can do that. You can say to people, well, hey, you came to our store, or you scanned online, or you haven't gone to you're online. If you go to our store, you can get scanned, right? If you're not doing mobile, if you don't have a mobile app with us. But either way, you're saying to people, we know something about you, and now I can email you with information about like new styles, new shoes. I'm not sending you the, you're a vegetarian, and I'm sending you the Subway, triple roast beef cheddar sandwich email. I'm sending you the, I know you're a runner, or we have a customer, Red Wing, boots, who Red Wing Shoes, who's big on work boots and all of that. They're able to take all this kind of information, conceivably know that you're an electrician, know that you work, you need steel toes or whatever, and when they have new models in, they could email you, or Fleet Feet and others can do that with running shoes. We've got a great customer down in Australia, the Athlete's Foot, who has really integrated this into their loyalty program. That's the other thing, is with the scanner in the store, you know how hard it is to collect an email from a customer. Like, people will even give you a fake email to get that discount that you're offering them or whatever on the spot. But if I say to you, and we've been talking about your scan, right? And I say to you, would you like me to send you the scan via email? The answer is almost always, yes, please, I'll take that. And so what happens is you get like an email. We've seen email capture rates go from like 10% to over 80, 90% in stores. And if you value an email, like most retailers value an email around $20 to $30, you realize that very quickly, like, the scanning equipment is, pays for itself, instantaneously, because you're onboarding people into loyalty programs. So the Athlete's Foot down in Australia has scanned probably almost 10% of the people in Australia now. They've got over 2 million scans, and they leverage it into everything they do. So like, if you shop on their website, you can bring your store scan onto the site, and they can send you these personalized, any of our customers could send you personalized emails or invite you to the website where you could present just a personalized shopping experience on the site. And so you, as this shopper, don't have to spend an hour shopping and hoping, and then getting finally to checkout and realizing, oh, darn, they don't have my size. You can kind of eliminate all that friction by leveraging this kind of fit tech.
Yeah, move that up to the front of the process. Brent, one thing that I think is really important to call out in what you were just saying is that previously, the ability to connect with a customer from a loyalty perspective, to provide them a level of service that they're satisfied with, that was all dependent on that associate being really, really good at their job. And I'm curious, as you've been able to kind of take the human side of the associate, even the new associates like you're talking about, and marry that with this technology, what have your customers been saying just about like the power that unlocks for both, the associates to be able to do their job better in store by having that tech, but then also the customers who now have that technology that they can use when they're making those choices online? Because it's really like giving everybody the best possible shopping experience.
I'm a marketing guy, so I'm prone to overstatement. So I'll try to like calm down, and just sort of like keep it as real as I can. But I mean, it has been a game changer. And I can say that firsthand, as having been a customer of Volumental before I came here. It's been a game changer in the sense that, and I won't lie, I mean, we had kind of our people who've been doing outfitting customers for 10, 15, 20 years. They don't even need a brand device. They can look at your feet and know exactly what size you are and know exactly where you go. And they were very worried, just like we were worried 30 years ago about disintermediation, like, oh, the internet's going to kill, physical retail, right? Or brand selling direct to consumer is going to kill retail. And none of these things ever really happened. And just like that, I call them kind of like the shoe dogs, right? Or the mules are kind of like, they're stubborn, and they're saying, this is going to, make me less important in the store. And so, we said, just give it a try, just use the technology. And almost instantaneously, they realized, no, this actually makes me like that doctor with the MRI. That makes me more of an expert, not less. It makes the interaction better. It's actually faster too for them. And it opens up their mind to other things in the back room that they wouldn't have thought of. So it's been a win all around. It's been a win for the shopper. It's been a win for the folks online. I mean, in the store, and the folks at headquarters who are trying to like sort of optimize their inventory and make the best and have productivity from their retail. You're paying wages to folks on the floor. You want them to be productive. And so it's been a game changer in many, many ways. Not to mention, like what I've already talked about, the onboarding aspect and the value that comes with that. And then ultimately the continuous contact that you can have now that you have the data with that customer.
Yeah. So Brent, let me ask you more about what you just said. Cause we're out at Shoptalk right now. And our people are listening to this at Shoptalk. That's why we're doing this. And being former retailers like yourselves and I too, one of the questions we always try to get at is, what is the perspective of the retail executives that's hearing about this technology for the first time and the types of questions that are on their mind? You started talking about it a little bit there in Ann's last questions in terms of, making the store employee feel comfortable. So I'm curious, like 2 questions really. One, what does this look like from an implementation standpoint? Like if a retailer wants to start working with you, what does that process look like? And then 2, what have you learned along the way as you've deployed this? Like what are some things that make those implementations successful versus others?
That's man, those are such great questions because, we're a young company, we're learning a lot as we go. But I think one of the key learnings that we have is that so I'll answer it from the executive's perspective that you asked about. You're at Shoptalk and you're thinking about, fit tech and who should I be talking to? One of the things you need to think about is what do we want our customer journey to look like? Like, how would we want the fit process to go? Because there are, if you're, let's say, Foot Locker and most of your customers they're not necessarily a performance customer. They're buying, Jordans and their fashion. They already know you're not going to, I'm buying the Jordan 27, that's what I'm buying.
Right.
I don't need to know, I don't need a style recommendation. So they just need to get a size recommendation. But if you're a running shoe store or your Bauer hockey skates or your, New Balance, or Under Armour, like, you might be offering them a performance alternative where they don't have a style selection in their mind yet. And so you can guide them towards the right style. So the user journey could be very different. So as a retail executive, you should be thinking about like, well, what do we want even the fit experience to be?
Right.
And then from an implementation standpoint, the longest standing product that we have, I mean, the scanner literally is like, you get it, it has the software that comes with it. So you plug it in, you give us an API in a day, we can give an API feed to your point of sale. So you can start sharing the data. We can start matching, if you're in certain categories, we already have a ton of data on all the brands and all the sizes and all the brands and the feet, millions, we have over almost 14 million scans now of individual feet, matched purchases. So the implementation of the scanner is very quick, and it's just up and running. You just plug it in and connect it to your iPad and you're off and going, Okay. Hopefully your wireless connection works and then everything's great, or you can plug it straight. If you don't have, it's better if you can plug it into the Ethernet, but it works really well with wireless. Again, 5 seconds to scan. So that's very quick, very fast, very simple. The newer products like the mobile scanner, using the phone, these are things that are in beta with customers right now. So that's a little bit more programming time from your team. You would want to have a commitment that, yeah, we want the user experience to include like an omni-channel. We want our customer to be able to do this from wherever. We're not afraid that they're not coming to the store first. We want to embrace them wherever they are. So if that's part of your journey, then you can onboard the mobile piece. And then certainly the marketing department and others need to get involved when you start thinking about, okay, we've got this ocean of data. I actually think it's one of the most exciting things. Like if you're a retail marketer or you're a merchant, right? You've got these products and we're like almost like Tinder for shoes. Like we've got all these feet out in the world and we've got all these shoes already built. Like, how do we match them up? Right.
Yeah.
And so like deploy this tool in your marketing. I would say you could put it in, you could put a link at the bottom, at least in the footer of every single email you send saying, by the way, if you want to shop online with your scan, do so. Right. So it unlocks so much value. But you would have to if you're thinking about this, you would have to say, what do I want my IT team doing for the next, 2 weeks, to make these things happen? Do I want them onboarding another payment, solution or onboarding another shipping solution, or do I want to kind of foray into this new thing? So that's one of our toughest challenges as a new sort of like, we're unlocking this thing that people don't even really know what it is. And so convincing people to, because everyone can always say, well, we've got other priorities and this and that. So it's like, if you want to make this a priority, it's a pretty easy onboarding thing, but it is going to take some tech resources from your end and our end to get together to bring some of these experiences alive in the way that you would want to do it. And so that's I think the key considerations you would want to think about.
So to that point, if I extrapolate from that, again, keep in mind from the executive standpoint, for a true omnichannel retailer, a retailer that has a bricks and mortar operation, would you recommend them to go with the in-store fit technology first and then ladder up from there? Or am I thinking about that the wrong way based on what you just said?
No, I actually think it's great because I think of these scanners as like, they're really interesting and they're great. And we think we have the best and fastest, and, we have our CEO, it was our former CTO and the co-founder of the company. He worked at Google X, he worked at NASA and JPL. I mean, he worked on the Mars, the little helicopter that flew on Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, Alper, our CEO, worked on that. So like, we have some whiz bang technology. I'd put it up against any scanning technology, but I also think it's in 5 years, it's going to become like the Brand device, right? So it's going to be like, who's interested in mining equipment really? But the mining equipment is worth a ton because it's what digs the ore and the things out of the ground that you make stuff with. And so the scanners are, if you think of them as the mining equipment that you can put in your store, it onboards people, it gets you those matchmaking elements that you need to then bring it on live onto Omnichannel. I mean, I think that would be the natural way to start if you have both, for sure.
So replace that Brand device. That's the key thing here. It's what the takeaway is. No offense. I mean, but it's an important thing to remember though, because as we talk about technologies, it's not always about like doing things new and completely different. Sometimes the simplest answers are just, how do we do what we've always done a little bit better in a way that makes a lot more sense.
Right.
And that's another big epiphany for me during this conversation that I hadn't thought about, because I've been talking about it, and we've been talking about that concept a lot as we've evaluated technology here, especially in 2022. And it's not something I've thought about in terms of fit tech yet. Right. And this is the first time where that's an easy replaceable solution, one swap out for the other. Exactly. If you think about it.
Exactly. Well, Brent, where are you guys headed in 2022? People listening to this at Shoptalk are interested. What are you focusing on? What should they expect from Volumental next?
Sure. So we're focusing more on board. I loved the question you asked earlier that Chris asked. I think it was because we're learning now, we're a young company, we're learning that like, if we start small, like with a small kind of insert, so like my story about the scanners, if we can get more retailers that are existing customers to start to do more beta testing around the mobile piece and learn with, because we've learned, like we went in with kind of a digital Brand device, and now we have this amazing tool that has all these different elements. Like you can't believe all the filters and things. I wouldn't even like, if you come to Shoptalk, we'll take you through all the filters and things that you can do to customize the user interface for your environment if you're a retailer that sells shoes in a store. But then I think our year looks like, how do we come up with the minimum viable product that everyone can use easily for the mobile solution, and the minimum viable product for the personalization, because we have this whole array, and I think we've kind of, maybe even confused people, like, there's so much, it's almost too hard to swallow it all. And it's like, I can't eat the whole whale. So I'll just do the scanner and I'll wait on the other. So our focus this year is making sure the messaging is very clean and clear, and the product is ready to be a little bit more plug and play, simplified so that it can scale easier for us and our customers. That's kind of our focus, but like I said, we have great existing customers we're turning all these things on with now. And so,
Brent, where can people try this? Like if Chris and I want to go do this ourselves, like where should we be going? Do you have some examples?
It depends on where you are. But, certainly Flea Feet now has, 240 stores around the country. They just merged with Jackrabbit store. So if you have, I'm not sure actually the Jackrabbit stores probably don't all have scanners yet, but Flea Feet certainly, New Balance stores have them. Several Under Armour stores are starting to deploy them. Red Wing shoes, there's 500 Red Wing shoes that have them now, that just deployed them this year. If you're in another country, if you're in Australia, certainly I would go see the Athlete's Foot in Australia. If you're over here in Europe, we have them deployed in brands like XXL and Beaver in the Netherlands, XXL here in the Nordics. So really, they're all over the world. We're in like 46 countries, 3,000 doors right now. So a lot of deployments everywhere. But one of the things we're working on is actually coming up with a geolocator on our website. So I would refer you to that if that tool was up and running, but it's not.
Right. Everything's a work in progress. Yeah. And I love what you said too in that last question, Ann, or the last question you asked, and Brent, what you said too about, there's still a lot to understand in the e-commerce journey of how this all plays out, from the user experience design of the e-commerce website to bring this all to life. And I think that's another key takeaway I'd have. in closing here. All right, man. I love that conversation.
I can't wait to get my foot scanned.
I had like 4 big takeaways. I know. My favorite quote of this is "I know feet," which Brent said right in the beginning. I know feet.
I know
That's
feet.
Great.
I don't know. I'm not a smart man, but I know feet.
I know feet.
Oh, I know.
But yeah, no, I loved it, and it was so good. But Brent, hey, we're doing this for Shop Talk. If people want to get in touch with you, they found this conversation interesting, want to learn more about it, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you in general? And then if they happen to be out at Shop Talk?
I think probably the best way is just hit me up on LinkedIn. Brent Hollowell. I'm one of the very few on LinkedIn, probably, so it's not hard to find. I cross-reference it with Volumental, and you'll get me. And then we can set something up while we're out there. We'd love to meet some new and interesting people.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, again, thanks for sitting down with us today. It was a really great experience, really great interview. I love this interview. Again, that was Brent Hollowell, the Chief Marketing Officer at Volumental. On behalf of Brent and myself, as always, for everyone at the show, I hope you're enjoying the show already. And of course, as always, be careful out there.